No problem.
One guy notes here that you and Keith seem to be sort of the rock and roll heart of the band. You see, the other guys kind of tend to go off on tangents of their own. But the rock and roll we associate with the Stones basically owes to the sensibilities of Ron and Keith.
Round the guitars, I suppose, yeah. The Axemen. The Axemen, as we say.
Yeah, really.
Well, we try and keep it evolving around that, but we couldn't do anything without Charlie. Right, but they don't drift off, the other guys, very much. They just, when it comes to the music, Bill and Charlie, a solid team together, and Mick's got a very sturdy voice that holds up. All the shows we did in America, like 60 shows, I bet Rod Stewart would have had a hard time to do. He couldn't actually have done so many shows in a row without his voice cracking up.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting Rod down there, but whenever the Faces used to work more than 2 days in a row, Rod's voice would go. You know?
Is that right?
Yeah. And on a long tour, it's very hard to sing 2.5 hours every night. I've tried it.
Well, how about in your own case, when you do these extended tours, how do you start falling apart after a while? What starts going first?
Well, I try not to, but if anything does go, it's down to the Jack Daniels gargle for the voice. That always brings it back.
But you start having trouble with your voice then?
Well, it's just sheer pressure on the old epiglottis. Because it's all right with your hands. I mean, if your fingers get sore, fine, you can dip them in gin or something and harden them up.
Harden them up a little. They're having an election on Sunday. This is how they advertise the names of the candidates. We talked to Chuck a couple of days ago. And he,
Chuck Lavelle?
Yeah, Chuck
Lavelle.
Lavelle.
Good man.
Yeah, very good man. He said something to the effect that he seems to act like sort of a catalyst between Mick and Keith. And he said that, you're kind of the original catalyst, and now you're sort of catalyst number two.
Yeah, but during rehearsals, he soaks up a lot more flack than I do.
So what exactly does he mean? I didn't quite follow him.
Well, anything that he feels should be changed contrary to what they expect, he'll dive in and say, hang on, because everyone will say, okay, we're finished with that, and he'll go, hang on a minute, before we finished, could we run that middle eight again? Because I think we did it wrong. Right? And then he'll take the consequences later. Go, wow, fuck you.
Yeah.
But or they'll 9 times out of 10 they'll say, oh yeah, okay, you're right, Chuck. Let's try that again. And then we'll rework it. Get it right.
So he's kind of the discipliner in there. He keeps things.
In certain cases he is, yeah. And in certain cases, such Matt Clifford, he's very good there.
How about before those guys joined on, like when it
well, Matt's been with us a few times before as well, but he never pushed his weights quite so much as he does now. But then again, it's just familiarity, as you work more and more with each other, you tend to say more suggestions. Most of my suggestions get wiped out immediately I say it, but it's no harm in putting them in.
Is that a personality thing, or why are your suggestions sort of dismissed?
It's a personality thing in that you're just trying to get it right. If I say something, I said, no, hang on the original. See, because I can see, even though I've been with the band for 15 years or more, I can still see it from the outside point of view, especially if it's an early song that I didn't play on. I can say, hang on, no, you did this. And they'll go, oh yeah, hang on, maybe he's right. And then they'll look deeper in and they'll say, oh, he's right. So I'm not trying to do anything to confuse it, nor is Chuck or Matt, or just trying to get it right.
One of the surprising things about the tour, at least one thing that a lot of people have been saying
is that we actually did it, yeah.
Actually, of course, yes, that's the first thing. The second thing is that a Japanese guy in New York saw the show and saw Keith running around like a madman on stage, and he couldn't believe it.
I know, his bum was on fire at the time.
No, he said he's never seen Keith behave that way.
Now weighs Well, he's totally into it because we are playing better.
Uh-huh.
You'll get this later. We're playing better than ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. It's not. Is it like kind of a miracle type of thing? You guys thought it was down the tubes and it came back again.
No, well, it's not through. It's not just luck. I mean, we are trying to make it better all the time, and the miracle is, what we can't believe it is getting better all the time. I think you'll find every guy in the band will say that in his own way. They'll say, "Wow, we've been waiting for something to go wrong," you know, and it hasn't.
Nothing serious has happened yet.
No, we had a power cut on the first night in Philadelphia during Shattered, and we dropped that number. We thought, okay, we played that a lot before anyway, so maybe that was somebody up there's way of saying you don't need to do that song on this tour. I'm glad, we were all quite glad in a way, because, you know, it didn't fit in. This tour is a serious, like 29 numbers or something of varying selections. Like we have like 4 or 5 songs every night that come in and get replaced by something else, so that it makes it more interesting for the audiences and for us. And Shattered was going to be one of the constants, you know, one that wasn't going to be replaced. But I thought, well, none of us were really into. We'd exploited that song on previous tours, like to the hilt. So it was like repetition. But now that that's out, Power Cut couldn't have happened at a better place.
Somebody upstairs.
So now, you know, we got in instead. Put something like "Bitch" in, you know, which is great because that's an early song before my time. But I like that song.
This question may be a bit misplaced, but if there were like a Small Faces reunion, would you attend? I mean, I guess
I'd be in the audience, because the original Small Faces was Steve Marriott, Ronnie Lane, Kenny Jones and Ian McLagan. Yeah, that was a great band. But if there was a Faces reunion, like with Rod and myself, oh yeah, I would attend. At least I know we wouldn't have to rehearse the tour. Just go down the pub.
That's more of an attitude band.
Oh yeah, it's just a good time band. We didn't have any of the professionalism of. We had our heart in it, like the Stones do. But I learned a new way of cleaning, polishing it up, but not totally polishing it. You know, just as they say, you can't polish a turd. But you can varnish it, as Keith said.
Okay. You're kind of the fifth wheel, I guess, because, you know, everybody else has been around since BC. Do you still feel like the fifth wheel? I mean, even after, how many years has it been now? It's like well over.
Well, we made It's Only Rock and Roll in my basement in 1974 in Richmond. So I feel like I've been with them since then, really. So how many years is that? That's 16 years,
16 years now. Does it still make a difference, though, not having been there for the initial, what were we talking about, 10?
Oh, they made a lot of heavy stuff, statement type music, brilliant music before I joined, and brilliant music after I joined. But I don't feel like a fifth wheel now. Not if you're talking about underestimating myself. I felt like an apprentice for many years. They made me feel like one for many years. I think I've just shed that now.
It's interesting though, because a lot of people comment, you know, you're the real musical brains and Keith's just sort of the feeling and the attitude, whereas you're technically more proficient.
I'm glad you said that. I could sit here and listen to that all day.
But I mean, when you got to the band, you didn't think that?
I used to underestimate myself terribly.
Is that right?
I learned not to. After, you know, when you get older, you think, you know, what am I doing all this time? Continually putting myself down, you know, like, I don't mean anything. I used to do that to be polite, because I'm basically a shy person, but there comes a time when you just say, fuck it, you know, I'm doing my bit. I'm putting in just as much as anybody else.
I guess you would take offense at somebody labeling the Stones sort of a revival band or this being a revival tour. I mean, it's all part of the evolutionary process, right? You're an ongoing thing, right?
I wouldn't take offense. I don't even know what it means, a revival.
Well, I mean, like the Who was a revival, clearly a revival.
Oh, yeah, that was clear. They made that clear, though,
Yeah,
didn't they?
that's
They
right.
said we were only getting back together for the money. That's why I kept rubbing it in. But although we're earning money on this, which is fantastic, that was the last thing on my mind, and I think the last thing on our minds. Sure, it's great to get paid great bucks, but we couldn't do it if the music wasn't a continual challenge to us. We're getting better every night. You know, we can't. We're not a band that can go and just churn it out. We would just walk off, just walk away. We wouldn't do it.
Seems like at the Grand Central Station press conference there, you were the most overjoyed. Was that?
Well, all my predictions had come true then. I said 3 years before we got together, I was saying 3 years' time we'll be doing a tour again. And, you know, I was just personally satisfied, and I just rubbed it in a bit, like that my predictions come true. Oh yeah, sure, I was overjoyed. It meant I could pay some bills as well as to keep the money. I mean, keep the music. Here I go again with my full attitude.
Honest mistake.
Now, to me, before I joined the Stones, they were an institution and of music. They still are, and I'm just really pleased to see that it's still going on. And I can't believe that they all still want to do it, and nor can they, which is great, because none of them are doing it for any underhand reasons, like just purely for money. Even Mick, who is, and Keith, you know, they're pretty money-oriented people, but underneath, they only work properly when the music is happening.
Yeah. They wouldn't go out and do a half-assed tour for any amount of money.
No way, no. They spend so much time researching it. And Charlie and Mick, I still give them their dues. They go into a lot of research before. I saw Mick yesterday, and he was continually checking out, making sure the lights and the stage crew and blah blah blah. I just went to his room for 5 minutes, and he's on the phone all the time. You know, and he's always been like that.
It's interesting because I guess once it starts, you know, he becomes obsessed with it. But when it's not happening, he's
I would sit back and I'll just say, okay, the tour's happening.
Yeah, right.
But Mick is continually checking up, and that's something I've always noticed about him. That's why, for all his, you know, faults or whatever, you know, he is a very thorough person, because he comes from the London School of Economics, and we're all art students, you know.
Do you think your determination, though, before it all started, had much to do with it actually coming back together? I mean, I'm sure the other guys for a while were going to shelve it all, but you were probably the most determined one to get it back together, weren't you?
Well, hopefully I made them realise that it wasn't just a long-lasting whim, you know.
But how did you actually lobby? Were you constantly in contact with him?
Well, I would just steam in all the time and say things. I'd blunder in there. May have said some things out of turn, but I got my message over that no way is this ship going to go down, you know, without a fight. As long as we're still alive, then there's no cause at all for it to stop rolling, you know.
When things were kind of tottering at the edge there, and they were for a while, what did you think you were going to be doing? I mean, if the Stones had formally dissolved, what did you have in mind? I'm sure you had a contingency plan, or a couple of them.
Well, I had no other sight in mind, you know, as a long-term thing than just to make it happen again. I didn't see it not happening.
Is that right?
Even when it was looking like the Stones offices were closing in London, New York, the whole thing was shutting down, I was still, no way. You know.
Is that right?
And I'd put Mick and Keith on the phone. Actually, will give myself some credit there, because I made the two of them talk at the worst time when they were like, it was all over, you know, and I got both of them on the phone, and I said, okay, Mick, you ring Keith up in 5 minutes, ring me back, tell me what happened, blah, blah, blah. And the mere fact that they followed my instructions and rang me back was the fact that I knew underneath that they wanted to keep it going. But they couldn't do it without me making them do that.
Well, talking musical history here, I mean, what exactly happened then? Who did you call first?
I spoke to Keith when he was really livid with Mick. He was like, yeah, mention that bastard's name to me, you know, really agitated. No time for Mick at all, you know. And I said, well, I happen to know where Mick is at the moment, and I hadn't spoken to Mick. I pretended to Keith. This is the way I always operate, is I don't do anything with malice or like with underhanded plans, but I just had one goal in mind, was that to get the two talking, and at least finalise it for once and for all that they weren't going to talk, or that they'd be friends. And I knew they would get on, because they'd been together for so many years, and it was like stronger than Lennon and McCartney. If Lennon was still alive, it would be much harder to get Lennon to talk to McCartney. Let's put it that way. But those two underneath, I know they have a kind of common bond. I don't know whether it's because they were born around the corner from each other. I think that's probably what it was, you know, from kids they knew each other. So I spoke to Keith, and underneath that hard shell I got this kind of thing where, well, okay, if he was to ring me up, I might talk to him. So I left it at that, and I said, okay, stay by the phone and I'll answer it in 5-10 minutes time. Then I got through to Mick miraculously, but I made it happen, you know, and believe these things. If you believe enough, it's going to happen. So I got onto Mick and I said, look, how do you feel, blah, 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 about Keith? And he was going, he don't want to talk to me. I said, well, look, why don't you just ring him and try this? Well, I haven't got his number with you. I said, well, I got it. Write this down, blah, 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 blah. So he said, hang on, let me get a pen. I thought, oh, okay, there's a sign here. So when he got the pen, took Keith's number. I said, look, believe me. He says, he don't want to hear from me. He hates my guts. He said, what have I done wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, forget all that. Ring that number I told you and ring me back with the results as soon as you put the phone down. So sure enough, like 10 minutes later, phone rings, mixes. I spoke to him, Woody. He was fine. And I went, there you go.
And that was it.
Oh yeah, but otherwise they would have gone.
Is that right? So it's just basically you follow the gut instinct and you knew things that they're talking about.
I didn't want any credit for it. I just thought that's what should happen. You know, I didn't even feel any. In fact, I feel more satisfaction now talking about it than I did at the time. I just thought it's something I had to do. I was just like possessed. And I couldn't even tell you when that was. It must have been probably after Mick had made his second album, that Primitive Cool. Keith was really mad that he made a second one. He was mad he made a first one. Well, I wasn't. I understood Mick wanted to get it off his chest, because, you know, everybody has to. In fact, since then, Keith's having made his solo album, he never wanted to do an album. He always wanted to pile it into the Stones, which is dedicated, great. But when he realised, like, everybody wants an album from Keith, I'm glad he did one. Like I was with him last night, and he's still playing his album. Keith is he's proud of it, you know. So, and it's gone gold here in Japan. So in all these mistakes comes some good stuff. You know?
I suppose with those guys, the tensions sort of grow the more they're apart, but when they're together, there's no problem at all.
That's what I saw. There's never any tension. There's never been any tension, really. Because if you put the two of them in the room, it all goes. They're friends. But over the long distance phone and all that, and when it all could have split, I mean, that was reality. It could have split when they're not in the same room. They could have never spoken to each other again. But as soon as they got back on the phone to each other, and then in the same room, which is Barbados, that's why it all happened so good with Steel Wheels. You know? That's why I let them write songs together, and just I didn't interfere at all. Even though I had loads of ideas for that album, I had loads of songs ready. I thought, I let the two get on, because Jagger and Richards are a good songwriting team.
Now with the new and improved Rolling Stones, you're sort of off stage, a different outfit as well. It seems like you're here with your families this time, and wives and children. And
oh yeah. Well, we've always had that kind of understanding. Like, for instance, with the Faces, there was always friction with the wives all getting together and stuff. And, but with this band, it's kind of take it or leave it. You know, fucking my wife's here, or deal with it as you want. You know, but she's going to be here. You know.
Is it more
Faces? It was a real drama. Oh, band split up time. You know that. Most bands split up like that. Actually.
Is that right? But everything's pretty mellow because the families are here now. I mean, it seems well.
No, everything's mellow because the boys in the band are operative. You know, we want to work together. We're all addicted to playing music, and especially together. But I mean, individually, like Charlie had his big band, and I'd go out with Bo Diddley or whoever, and Ray Charles, or that show I did with Fats Domino and Jerry Lee. I'd just play with people to keep my chops together. You know, I play in pub in Ireland with a band. I don't care as long as my chops are together, ready to play again. My fingers are sore after last night. You know. Give it a couple of months off, the fingers soften up.
Well, did you start playing last night for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I've only done 2 pub gigs in Ireland since before Christmas. But that's not really a long time. I mean, a long time off is years off. That's when you lose it. I never stop for months in a row. I might stop for 1 month, but I always pick up a guitar and keep it going.
Did you feel that Keith was any different? I would imagine his chops were in pretty good shape after all of his solo stuff.
Well, that's another thing that Keith discovered for himself, that he didn't really think he wanted to do a solo tour either. But when he actually got up the gumption to do it, he realised how ready he was to play again with Stones, because he had recharged his batteries and ammunition. Mick too, with his solo tours. You know, as much disagreeable sort of vibes he got. Mick's touring. It doesn't matter. Everyone in their own way. Bill doing his. He did lots of charity shows. I joined him on quite a few of them as well. Everybody kept their chops together and felt much better about it, getting back together as the Stones. That's why that album came together so quick, I think. Steel Wheels.
When you perform live, do you think you need the buzz of a stadium audience? If you guys performed at a smaller club, do you think you would perform as well?
We'd perform as well in front of 3 people or 300,000.
So?
Oh yeah, doesn't matter. As long as we got somebody to play to.
It seems like Mick's the type that kind of craves the stadiums and.
Well, I think he craves it because he knows he has to have stadiums to make the whole thing pay, because there's so many people, like over 250 people in the crew to support and flying them everywhere. In a way, we're lucky with coming to Japan because we just come to one place and set up. The crew, I mean, they're laughing. They're sort of, we set up, sit back for 2 or 3 weeks. But in America, those crews work really hard, so they deserve this, because they know they've got another hard stint coming in Europe, going across all the borders, and we're going from Ireland to Moscow, you know, all over.
Could the tour have happened without any of you guys? If any one of the 5 of you had been let's say in a
No, I don't think we would have toured it. Say Bill had problems, which he's had many. He showed a great attitude. He says, no, I'm working, you know. If he has problems at home or something, he'd just say to me, no, I'm working. He wants to do it. He was the one, first of all, he was really against it.
He was?
Okay.
Yeah, he really didn't want to do it. And, Lord, yeah, we're great. But, are we winding up?
Yeah, we're just about done, yeah.
Whatever you want. You want a few more minutes?
All right. Yeah, we're just winding up.
Questions right now. Yeah. He was the one who was most against it, then. Bill.
Yeah, let me think what his reason was. Oh yeah, because he thought when it came to making an album, it was going to be the same as before, like 6 months messing about in the studio, you know, like rehearsing. And I said to him, no, as everyone's been working, you won't find Keith and me like just hanging in the studio and calling you up at all hours of the night to come down for no reason, you know, just to toss ideas around. What we did was we did it right. We rehearsed Barbados, got it all pretty slick. So when we went to Montserrat, I think we had everything done in, including rehearsals, in 5 months, which is unbelievable. Usually it's a year and a half at least.
One last question here about how you work out your guitar parts with Keith. How does it evolve? I mean, it seems like it'd be very complicated because you guys could essentially be playing the same thing.
Yeah, it's really strange. Last night we were playing together, but if I go bah, he'll go in the gap, and we just it's luck like that. It's a feel, you know. It just we'll play bits together with the same feel, and then when we go off loose, we'll find that each one is playing in the other one's gap. With something we don't look into. It's a bit like reggae, you know.
Having played with Ronnie Wood, do you think that changed his style at all?
Well, Waddy's great to play with. I've played with him before. He's real natural. It's like playing with Billy Preston on the keyboard, or Ray Charles. You know, Billy was Ray's young prodigy, you know. It's just some magic there. I don't know. You can't really analyse it.
He's just a very dexterous player, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Waddy's real fun to play with. He never poses a problem, and he just plays in those gaps without working them out.
Right. Do you think Keith's a better player for it, or is he? Oh
yeah, I think he'll tell you he is a better player for it, but it just made him appreciate me a bit more.
Is that right? Well, why do you think that? What do you have over Waddy Wachtel? Is it feeling?
No, I just have the same exchange. It's an exchange, really. That's the magic. It's not being better, I think. Great studio players, we all are. You know, we can go along to a Mozart session or a reggae session, you know. Or, you know, Eric Clapton or someone who's very choosy. But Eric plays great with us too, you know. He really rocks out. Have you seen some of that? Did you see that video that we did in Atlantic City?
No, I didn't.
The last concert in America, second to last, went out on pay-per-view. Eric plays brilliant on Little Red Rooster. You know.
Is that right?
He plays with John Lee Hooker with us too. But Eric needs a kick, you know. If he's kicking up the arse, he goes, you know. And it's a bit like we kick each other. You know, Charlie kicks Bill, or we kick Charlie. It goes all around, you know. Mick kicks. I kick Mick and blah blah blah, you know, it just goes around like a passing this imaginary medicine ball around.
All right then, well, thanks a lot. I think we got what we need to know.
Good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, thanks a lot.
All right, nice talking to you.
Talking at you.
Yeah, no. So can I kick these?
Yeah.
Brilliant.